If you like these stories, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. When Hugh was asked if he was married and why he had no family, he only shrugged his shoulders. Apparently, he had no apparent reason to give up his bachelorhood. Hugh was a tall and handsome man of medium build. He had successfully graduated from medical school and was rapidly developing his career. He currently had his own dental clinic and was earning a very decent income. Hugh liked comfort and was currently building his own house. All in all, at first glance, he seemed like an enviable groom. But there was one big problem. He lived with his mom. A few years ago, Hugh had to move out of his rented apartment in the city center on short notice. He needed a place to stay while he looked for another apartment. That's when he made one of the biggest mistakes of his life. Scarlett Brown lived in a spacious apartment near the center. When she learned that her son had to move out of the apartment within a week, she persuaded him to move in with her. Temporarily, of course, until he could find something suitable, especially since there was plenty of room in their family apartment for two. His mother had convinced Hugh that she would be very happy to take a little care of her grown-up son, even if he didn't come for long. Hugh was very busy with work, and it was difficult for him to keep busy looking for a new place to live. At first, when he first arrived, Scarlett tried not to disturb her son and to give him as much comfort as possible. He didn't even always notice her presence. It was quite convenient to find a fresh, home-cooked dinner at home after a hard day's work. Hugh relaxed and decided that it was not such an urgent task to find another apartment quickly. The main thing was that the new place would suit him completely. The longer he lived in the apartment with his mom, the more his life turned from that of an adult to that of a mama's boy. Slowly, Scarlett began to clean up his room, going out to the kitchen more and more often to meet him in the evening. Later, she started making him breakfast every morning. All this jointly imposed life with his mother slowly and unobtrusively absorbed Hugh. He did not immediately realize the exact moment when he began to report on his personal affairs and plans and to take over household matters. A year into her life with Hugh, Scarlett was already harshly manipulating her son, complaining about her aching heart. She was fond of listing all her services for which he should be grateful to her. She sheltered him, fed him, cleaned him, did his laundry, and now she was sick and expecting him to take care of her. Hugh's financial condition improved every year, so he decided to buy his own house so that he would no longer have the hassle of renting a house. He told his mother about it, to which she replied that it was a great decision. But she thought it would be logical for him to stay with her until the house was ready. When Scarlett's acquaintances and friends asked her when her son would get married, she only sadly replied that Hugh was too decent. Finding the right girl for him is very difficult in today's world. She thought that all girls are too frivolous and are only interested in his money. She also liked to tell her friends that she took such good care of her son that he would hardly want to exchange that care for some talentless young fool who couldn't even cook lasagna. People around them wondered why Hugh's mother was acting like this and wanted to tie an independent adult to herself. But those who knew Scarlett better were aware of her oddities and her character. Scarlett could talk for hours about her relatives, both near and far. The listeners suffered from these monologues and listened to her politely at best, but Scarlett never stopped talking. She has detailed hundreds of times how she visited a relative in Iowa 20 years ago and what they talked about on the phone last week. She even talked about how much she hated the summer heat in the city or the ingredients of her signature pear pie. Anything to talk about. She didn't want to listen to anyone else at all. If she pulled out a photo album, the conversation could go on for hours, while the listeners wanted to get away from the annoying hostess and go about their business. Even the air in her apartment, despite the high ceilings and open windows, seemed pressurized and dusty. The question arose involuntarily. Had anyone ever decided to tie their life to her? Probably yes, since she was a divorced lady who had a son in marriage. So there was a man in her life who had agreed to take her as his wife. Unfortunately, Hugh knew very little about his father. Scarlett once and for all refused to talk about the subject. Her lips tightened, and she said that the memories were too hard for her because her husband had despicably left her with a small child. She told her son that there are serious and responsible men who understand their responsibilities, and there are frivolous ones who do not want to give up their addictions, even if they have children. And as a result, all the burdens fall on the woman. Sleepless nights, children's illnesses, hard work. All of this has fallen to me, Scarlett cried. My health was fragile, but I had to go to work from the last strength to feed both of us. I haven't even seen alimony from this rascal. He's just disappeared. And I beg you, let's end this conversation so I never hear another word about your father. So Scarlett put an end to her son's questioning so that she would never speak to him again on the subject. Hugh obeyed. He felt guilty toward his mother for all those years of her self-denial. As soon as he got a job, he asked his mother to quit and stay home, and he began to provide a decent life for her, as much as he could. Scarlett always managed to find something to do, like redoing the curtains 3 times over the summer. Each time, she was unsatisfied. At each time, she had to search all over town for the right fabrics. The fabrics needed the right threads, and sewing curtains became a series of endless tasks and difficulties that Scarlett overcame. And her son's favorite lasagna? First, she spent a long time looking for a place to order dough because it was hard for her to make the dough herself, and she considered store-bought dough unworthy. Then, she had to find the right butcher store to buy good mincemeat because store-bought mincemeat has a lot of fat. Buying good quality minced meat is very difficult, wailed the woman. Lately, when Hugh came home, her mother would announce that she was half dead with fatigue. Her blood pressure was off the charts, and her heart was aching badly. When Hugh had brought home girls in his youth, young, beautiful, and fun-loving, his mother had never liked any of his girlfriends. Scarlett took each visit seriously. She made sure to brew coffee according to all the rules and did not let the girl go until the end of the interrogation. Scarlett immediately began to find out what kind of family the girl was from, who her parents were, how well off they were, and how the girl imagined her future family life. Hugh remembered how the sweet and pretty Lizzie, after such an interrogation, had shuddered and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not coming to see you again. This is worse than a job interview when applying for a job. I was expecting your mom to say, 'Thank you, we'll call you back.'" And now, as an adult, Hugh hid from his mother the fact that he had been seeing a woman for several months now. He knew his mother was strict about who he chose, and Amanda probably wouldn't pass her scrutiny. They met by chance. The woman was a couple years older than Hugh, a blonde-haired beauty with soft features. She worked as a receptionist at her friend's private clinic. She didn't have any children of her own yet, and Scarlett would find 1,001 faults with Amanda and talk about them. She wouldn't consider her a worthy object for family life at all. Amanda only had medical school under her belt. She did not go through postgraduate studies and practice and changed her mind about being a doctor at all. Immediately after university, she started working as a receptionist in a private clinic, a job she enjoyed. But, in Scarlett's opinion, a woman who does not bring her work to fruition is not worthy of attention. In addition, she will not be able to devote much time to her household and home if she spends all her time at work. Hugh felt as if he were trapped. The hours spent with his beloved brought him the most joy. Even the food she cooked seemed surprisingly delicious to him. Come to think of it, his mother couldn't cook. Everything she made was bland, like herself. Scarlett called it diet food. In his dreams, Hugh saw him and his beloved going to another city and living the life they wanted, without his mother's opinion or interference. Hugh cares for his beloved, as it was enough for him to see her smile when he comes home from work. But at the same time, the man knows that fate can punish him if he decides to leave his mother during a difficult period. The only son left for dead! Hugh knows for a fact that his mother will not survive this. And how will he himself live after this? He will know that he ruined her, so the only thing he could do was to tell his mother that he has plenty of work to do, that he is busy not only all day, but also in the evenings. In reality, he spent those evenings and weekends with his beloved. He promised her that things would change and he would find a way out. Amanda had put up with this life for a year now, and only once did she fail and whisper sadly that she thought Hugh would never marry her because he was already married to his mother. And then it was late fall and it snowed. Hugh drove home in the dark on a deserted road. When the headlights from his car slid across the bus stop, the man involuntarily hit the brake. He saw a man sitting on the ground, hands hugging his knees. He must have been sick or drunk, rushed through Hugh's mind, but something made him stop and get out of the car. As he got closer, he saw that the man in front of him was a vagrant. The man was very thin and literally drowning in several layers of dirty clothes. Hugh shook the man by the shoulder and offered to take him somewhere to help him. Hugh immediately noticed that the vagrant's hand had no extension, and it was clear that the man needed medical attention. "They won't take me to the hospital," the man quietly objected. But Hugh insisted and said he would go to the hospital with him. In the emergency room, the doctors tried to get rid of the unwanted patient, but Hugh insisted on helping. The young doctor objected, claiming that the man did not have a passport or health insurance. But Hugh, who works as a doctor himself, knew when a patient could be refused and assured the doctor that this was not the case, saying he would leave his details and pay for the treatment. Eventually, the doctor agreed to admit the patient and asked him to bring him a change of underwear and slippers. Getting into the car, Hugh thought he should use interior freshener. He noticed a black bag of items on the floor that the man had obviously left behind. Because of the unpleasant odor coming from the bag, Hugh decided to put it in another bag and put it in the trunk. As Hugh fiddled with the bags in the semi-darkness, the hobo's bag accidentally tore, and all its contents spilled out into the trunk of his car. As he was packing, he noticed a crumpled and yellowed photograph. He decided to put it in his pocket and give it to the tramp tomorrow when he visited him. Then Hugh decided to look at the photograph in the car. Goosebumps ran down his skin because he recognized the crumpled picture. He had seen the same picture in his home album. It was the only memory he had of his father. In the picture was little Hugh standing between his parents. In the evening, Hugh habitually answered his mother's questions, though his thoughts were vague, and at night he could not sleep. Sunday came, and Hugh called Amanda, saying he would be there later, and went shopping. He filled a large bag with purchases, a change of clothes, shoes, hygiene products. He also bought fruit, candy, and other small things. Then he went to the hospital, fearing that the vagrant might not be registered and would be thrown out into the cold. But to his relief, everything turned out all right, and on the list of patients, Hugh heard his name. The nurse reported, "Peter Wilson," in Ward 4, and Hugh no longer doubted that it was his father. He saw that the man was cleanly washed and changed into a hospital gown. Hugh wanted to offer the man the clothes he had bought, but instead he just coughed, sat down in the chair next to the bed, and said in a muffled voice, "The fact is, Hugh Wilson." He saw the man's eyes fill with tears. He reached for Hugh's hand, coughed hard, and cried. There was both joy and resentment in his tears. All day, Hugh did not leave the hospital and talked to the father he had not known before. My father began to narrate. "I worked at the mine, made enough money, bought an apartment that she probably still lives in. When I met Scarlett, I felt sorry for her. She didn't even have any friends. There was no real love between us. I wanted someone waiting for me at home. We got married, and at first things were more or less normal. But you know her temper. I only had 2 drinks in front of her. Once, she called me an alcoholic and said she wouldn't live with someone like me. I've never heard such foul words spoken to me in my life. The second time happened when you were 2 years old. We were freezing coming back from a shift with the guys. I had just gone to a pub with my friends to warm up. Just 2 beers. Thought I'd come home and go straight to bed. I thought Scarlett wouldn't notice, but she made such a scene over, screaming at me to get out and never come back and be in her life again. Then I went to that pub and was already drunk there. Then I remember being beaten on the street and thrown into the snow. Some scumbags took all my documents and money. I think they hit me hard on the spine. Then I couldn't stand on my feet properly for a long time." "So why didn't you go to the police?" a shocked Hugh asked. "Because she organized the whole thing. She paid money to some thugs to scare me. They told me not to come home again and not to go to the police or they would kill me. From then on, I lived in the cellars together with other unfortunates like me. We helped each other if we could, shared clothes and food. I was never able to establish my true identity. My mind was all mixed up. I was chased out of all the offices, and I didn't have many friends. Scarlett did a good job of keeping me from going back to my old life. Then, near the train station in the courtyards, some teenagers attacked us and beat me up worse than those bandits. Apparently, I got hit on the head very hard. Anyway, I didn't remember who I was, where I came from, or anything related to that. Started remembering only a couple years ago, but I wasn't sure I was remembering something real and not making it up. And today, when you said your last name and first name, My whole life flew before my eyes in seconds. Hugh got home late and immediately began packing his things. "What's wrong?" Scarlett exclaimed. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving," Hugh said with contrived calm. "I don't want to live with you anymore. And for starters, I'm going to get drunk. And what are you going to do? Call the thugs to beat me up? So the bad son won't bother you anymore?" He said, without looking at his petrified mother, and walked past her with his bag, slamming the door. When his father was discharged from the hospital, Hugh first rented a small apartment for him. Then, in consultation with Amanda, Hugh decided to build a small guest house for his father next to the big house he had bought. A few months later, Hugh learned that his mother was doing quite well. She had not had the heart attack she had always feared her son would have. He still didn't want to see her. He realized that she was always more concerned with herself, continuing to be a withdrawn egotist. People in the neighborhood told him that Scarlett was still complaining about her fate. Every day, the neighbors have to listen to horror stories about a scoundrel husband and now a scoundrel son. Hugh hoped that people would get tired of listening to her complaints and that someday there would come a moment when she would realize how wrong she was.